Hello ladies and gents, I am Anadifin, and welcome back to From the Depths Ashes of the Empire Community Edition. This episode is unfortunately just going to be fully in the designer, and that is because I want to be showcasing all of Monklizard's forces, as they're going to be added in to their own force, probably to take on the remnants of the Steel Empire. And there are a lot of them. Also, there were a couple of designs I missed in Mainfall's designs as well, so I'll showcase those first of all. That is the MLC's Mark 1s, the Else 1 through 4, the heavy version, and a couple of strike fighters. So yeah, that was... whoops. So let's do the Mainfall's ones first, which I'll add into that force, and then Monklizard's ones can be in their own separate force. So, to begin with, the Mark 1 Armoured Else 1, the MLC. A 20k design here. Very low tank. Reminiscent of the original tank, I guess. The way the track's set out like that. Seems fairly speedily. And what's the gun here? So, access... squash, big gun there, okay, and what's the ones at the side? Big just squash, HE, yeah, 3 big squash rounds there, so good job. This is going to actually be utilised against the Onyx Watch, so I will send it against such. Let's turn around. So there's the 3 guns, and that is a big amount of Hesh rounds striking there. What's the refire rate? Refire rate is decent, and yeah, huge squash rounds, as expected, able to just tear through the Onyx Watch. And yeah, that refire rate is well, a little bit higher than I was expecting actually. Oh, that's because they're big guns. Despite them being pretty big, rather potent design guns, this is really rather robust, it seems. It's got a lot of heavy armour internally. So although it's metal on top, it has got heavy armour backing to it, meaning that this metal actually has a lot of armour value. Very nice. The Else 2. That's a little bit stubbier design. And what's the guns this time? Oh, it has fragmentation and just casing. Okay. I wonder if the casing ones are actually being used anywhere. No, it just looks like those there. It's probably just got a spare thing somewhere for balance purposes. See, oh, 3 big rounds, and this is just the fragmentation, which do actually a really rather nice amount of damage. It's a lot higher fire rate than the previous entry with the 500mm gun we had from Mainfall, and that is good. And it also has the inertial fuse, which makes it very good against shields should I face a shielded opponent. And it's actually already AI-deaded its target, so it's actually a lot faster firing rate than the squash one. And so against the Onager it was actually more effective. Very nice. So moving on to the Else 3. Slightly more expensive design, and that's because this is a massive Gatling version. Fragmentation, Gatling, inertial fuses. This is going to make a right mess of everything. So back to the Onager. Just got to turn around. It turns very nicely on the spot. And ooh, took a nasty hit there, but the barrels survived. And there we go. The 2 side guns at least are firing. And it's just stripping through the main hull of the Onager there. There we go. Big bursts of fire. Completely massacring the Onager, doing huge amounts of damage. And now, yep, all 3 guns are now firing. Looks like the recoil is pushing it back a fair amount. It does have the shields. The shields don't look like they're fully protecting the barrels, but they are protecting about half the barrel length. And that is good, because the barrels are weak regardless. So trying to defend the full length of the barrel can be quite difficult to do. And this is, yeah, the recoil is really flinging this back. But that's fine. It's AI-deaded its target and stripped out most of the blocks. I'm actually surprised I didn't go too damaged before it went AI-dead. very, very potent design, and actually probably the most potent out of all of them, even though it was technically slower at AI deading its target, just because rapid fire guns are really good against absolutely anything. So this next one is another rapid fire one. What's the fragmentation? Is this just an even rapid firing one? Could very well be. Oh, it's more bursty. So this has got belt feeds. Okay. I'm just trying to compare what the difference between the two is. So they are both belt feeds. Well, that one's exploded. It's not obvious as to the difference between the two of them. Let's just check the main gun again. So fragmentation 4, 8, 6, 9. Yeah, I just can't tell much difference between them. Seem very similar to me. Is that really the difference? This one's got a few more repair pods. It's probably got different internals. Just how it's armoured and protected could be different. Yeah, it looks a little bit different. So it's more based on the hull differences, I think, rather than the guns. But they'll probably be enlightened at some point as to the exact differences to them. Moving on to the next one, we have the MLC Mark 1, the Heavy, rather than just the Armoured. Oh, this is Heavy Armour variant. I expect this is probably Squash, and it is Squash. As I said before, the Squash is just insanely good. So, in fact, because we're facing this, we'll actually send it against the Rhino, because, come on, this thing is a heavy armour brick. Should be able to do something against the Rhino. Okay, it can die. Wow. It got gutted. Okay, it just goes to show just how ridiculously strong the Rhino is. How it broke through the only bit of non-heavy armour. The thrusters at the side, the turning thrusters. Which actually make it quite a lot weaker. Because it's got so many more of them. That's interesting. Because it has a lot more of them to actually be able to turn. I think it might be weaker against inaccurate bombardment. Similar to, like, similar to the Rhino. So, against a target like this, which hits at the front, I'm sure it's very strong. But an inaccurate barrage is actually might do more damage to this variant, which is really rather surprising. I was not expecting that, you know, heavy armor brick, but it does seem to be, it might be the case. That said, let's actually just confirm that. I'll send the normal version against the Rhino because I'm dissing the heavy version not being able to take out the Rhino, but what happens to the normal variant? Yeah, so the normal variant just, yeah, that's what happens to the normal variant when it faces off against the Rhino. So the fact that the other one just takes a gutting at the rear end rather than being completely reduced to a handful of bricks, that shows the difference. So the heavy variant is considerably stronger than the normal one, but otherwise I think it's probably around about the same. So, we're on to the RX Chargers. We have a couple of strike fighters, so I'll be using a couple of these each, and then I'll send them against a Duster. So they've got a barrage of missiles there, which is nice. EMP fragmentation. Okay, they've killed their target. We have a Gotha now. So apparently these are guns, so there's the guns. Got fragmentation, shots at seams. There's predominantly those EMP fragmentation missiles doing the damage. Very potent for a 6K design, actually. and able to dodge a lot of shots against it. Even missile fire. Not so convinced that the guns are doing anything, but yeah, they're doing well enough. And as a small swarmer, they will do quite nicely, though I'll only be spawning a couple in. And then let's have a look at the HE variant. So I'm presuming this is going to actually have HE missiles. Big barrage, spray of shots there. Looks like the cannon might actually be firing faster, but that could just be me. Yep. Actually, high explosive missile shots there. Which against against the wooden Gotha is vastly more effective than the fragmentation, which just over-penetrates straight through the weak hull. So yeah, I think the fragmentation EMP are going to do better against the targets it's facing, but this HE variant would have been an absolutely amazing addition when facing the Dustwind Gypsies at the beginning of the game. So definitely a very nice design, but it's just the case with this Let's Play, designs do kind of get delayed or come in at a different point as to when we're actually fighting. So now, on to the main bulk of the forces, the new forces. And I've already showcased one of these. That was because the date on it was completely different, so I don't know what happened there, because I was supposedly meant to have downloaded all these at the same time, but whatever. We have the Zutafanis, the E11s, and then also we have the Zutafani Combines later on. So, let's have a look at the A version here, the A remake. I'm going to just go over the general idea of the aesthetics for this, just because of how much I like it, and a lot of them are probably going to look fairly similar. So I do really like this spaced armor side. It looks very, very authentic and realistic, and as has been shown in the game, it's actually very effective. So cram or lots of shots get hit at the side here, and it absorbs a remarkable amount of damage, keeping explosions away from the main hull. And also, I expect the ERA does help in that regard as well. Similarly, this spin block section at the front also helps really reduce the amount of damage it's received. And I think because this is actually on a spin block and turned, I think it actually helps deflect it, because normally you have a block and it's considered a block. So you take something dead on, even though this is a nice curve, it is considered a block by the game. So straight on, you just take the full brunt of that hit without any extra chance of pinging off. Whereas this, because it is actually at a slope, it means that when a shell comes in, it actually has a higher chance of pinging off, because this is angled. And that's the same for like the shields. So that is a very nice part there. And as always with Monklizard designs, just the general aesthetics is absolutely gorgeous. But also it's very, very practical, combining the aesthetics with the actual practicalities. So we have here is all the ammo intakes and the actual ejectors, which admittedly not a very good place to have them showing on the outside of the hull, but that all goes in style with this build. It's a very lightweight, fairly cheap design, and by having it all shown here, it works wonderfully with the aesthetics, just allowing it to have a nice smooth curve around the turret. Otherwise this turret would be absolutely enormous, which is how I build things, but this just looks a lot neater and very, very nice. So, don't know a lot about this vehicle and the aesthetics, so let's just go on to the actual weapons. So this is got a combination of EMP and fragmentation rounds. Now we'll be sending everything probably against the Orion, I think. It is a cram design, but it's a very tough design, and it just will allow me to see just how the actual munitions work against it. Oh, it's got lambs. Not a good choice. I think actually a couple of... probably just a cannon tower from the Onyx Watch is probably going to do well. The cannon tower is a big metal block. It allows me to see the shells doing a decent amount of damage. So this version isn't particularly very strong. It has a small amount of EMP, but that's the disrupt round to break through the shields. But even that small amount of EMP has actually broken the AI, which is quite amusing on this design. So there we go, the design has defeated the enemy. Next up we have the Heatman, because that was the EMP-man. So this one is likely to have heat rounds, and as you can see it's exactly the same sort of aesthetics, which is why I wanted to go over it in such good detail. And this one utilizes shaped charges. It's taken a nasty hit there, but here comes the actual heat and high explosive rounds there. Just skimming a little bit, but there we go. It does hit, eventually hit, and spoiling does a good amount of damage. It also has got some other fragmentation parts, so it doesn't just do completely nothing against targets without much internal explosions, much like this design here. And there we go, you just saw a perfect example of why that curve is so good. It's just reducing the amount of cram explosions because it's bouncing off that angle block there. Very, very nice. It's now AI dead. Cool. So, now the Heshman. Again, same design, but this time with a Hesh gun, I expect. This one should do very nicely against its target. So yeah, the Hesh round doesn't look like it's doing anything, but immediately there's holes internally just from the amount of damage there. Hitting a bit low down on the base, so the Hesh isn't doing enough damage really. Well, that's a bit of heat there. We've got secondary heat or something. Squash. Ah, it does have heat. So it's got squash and shape charge. It has got a bit of heat and Hesh there, that's why. It's hitting very much at the base because it's aiming at the ammo at the base, and then eventually it does hit it with one of its rounds, and that has basically blown up the whole base of this cannon. Unfortunately for the Heshman here, it's a cram cannon, it doesn't need ammo, but it's done very well at disabling its target, and any other vehicle would be really, really hampered by losing its primary ammo storage there. So, moving on to the B variants. So we have the B, the Aspen, the Flakman, and the Fragman. So let's look at the basic variant here. So, a lot of the aesthetics are pretty similar to the previous design. Well, they're similar but different. So the way the spaced armor is slightly different, and it's got different aesthetics at the back. It's just a bit more of a... it's a bit more like a beetle to me. And this one has twin turrets. And yes, it's probably a little bit slower rate of fire. Again, having a lot of components shown off as visible aesthetics, which is good and bad at the same time. But, of course, proof is in the pudding as to how this functions. So we have HE rounds. So it's going to be basically as basic as you get when facing off with these. So 2, just fragmentation, which is HE. And this is going to do good amount of damage every single shot. Nice consistent rate of fire between the two guns there, and it's already identified its target, which is very nice. So even when it's hit, it does take a bit of damage there. So we'll actually observe the next one from the tank's perspective, so we can just see how well it copes with damage. So we have the Aspen. So I'm just presuming this one's quite a bit faster. Either rate, probably not rate of fire, but the actual speed of the vehicle is just faster. So 2 shots there. It does seem to be going a little bit quicker. Yes, seems to be going faster. I should just compare it in a dead in a dead race between the two of the things. That's got the wrong terminology there. Let's have a look at the cannons though on this one. Yeah, so it's both nice little designs and a good all-round pair of vehicles there. So now look over to the next one. These are going to be going into the fragmentation and the flak. So the flakman. This time I expect it's now going to be flak shells. Oh yes, it's flak shells. Wonderful. Now this isn't going to do much against the cannon tower whatsoever, because it's flak shells. Flak does very little damage against metal. Ooh, look at that hit though. Took a nasty strike there, but it just hit essentially the side there. Not doing much damage at all to the tank itself proper, which is great. We're going to have a good amount of view of observing the crams hitting this vehicle, I think. The initial strike of that hit there. Oh wow, ping straight off the armour. That's armour for you, doing very nicely. So yeah, the flak is doing absolutely nothing to the hull really here. It's doing minimal amount of damage to some of the wedges and things like the door, but overall it's not doing very well in this lineup, which is to be expected because it's black. It's not going to be very good against the metal of the Onyx watch. So let's say to face it off against something it should be good against. Something from the Dustwind Gypsies. And send it against a King Cobra. Okay, there we go. That black shell just detonated all the missiles, so this is going to be good against missiles, and it's already stripped off half the components of the target there. A couple of other hits, breaking off more small components, and there we go. All the missiles detonated for the target, and yeah, it's losing all the surface components. It hasn't actually taken that much critical damage, but all of these surface components have now been damaged or destroyed, which makes it a lot easier to deal with. Unfortunately, it just took a critical hit there, and it looks like the AI controlling the gun has been disabled, so it's not really going to be able to take out much more. Still, it does go to show just how much better the flak is against an appropriate target. So we now have the fragmentation variant, and this should do a huge amount of damage against whatever it faces because it's fragmentation. Took a hit at the rear there, but again, not taking that much damage because of the spaced armour and the ERA, so very well done there. And also the shields do ping off the odd shell, which is always good fun. But yeah, fragmentation doing a lot of surface damage, so unlike the Hesh or the Heat, which do internal, the fragmentation just excels at breaking off surface blocks, which, depending on what you're facing, can turn out to be a lot more effective. So now, we're moving on to the S01E Cs. We have again, the S-Man, the Flakman, and the Heatsman this time. So it's a little slight bit different. So let's have a look at the standard variant. Interesting. Ah, very interesting. So it actually is lifting itself up as like a anti-air fortification. Oh, that is very neat style, and it has a lot of, are they the direct feed guns? Yes, they're direct feed guns. Lots of gauges, and yes, this is a very interesting style of vehicle. Of course, it's going to be ridiculously explosive because, well, all of its components are on show, but that's the style. It's meant to be an anti-aircraft gun, a support vehicle. It's literally on stilts to, you know, be a good vehicle for actual anti-air. Oh, I do like this. Utilising those there to make it look like actual suspension. Nice. So I don't think the cannon tower is going to be a very good target for this, but we'll try it anyway. I'm interested to see how it survives. So it fires a big barrage of shots, which actually do a lot more damage than I was expecting. But then the first strike, because it doesn't have that sidearm in the same way, it just takes a ridiculous amount of damage. But once it's loaded its barrage, it should be able to fire another load of shots. And there we go, it's doing a good amount of damage, but this is predominantly more likely to be for taking out faster or air targets. And maybe not so much for the Onyx Watch. But I am going to be using it against the Steel Empire later on. Just I think the cannon tower is a great target for testing these munitions with. But yeah, it doesn't hold up as well as the other designs to direct cram assault, so that's to be expected. But let's have a look at the ASAP man. This has got a lot of, again, basic guns. AP, oh, that's what it is, the APHE, yeah. APHE smoke, yes. Not ASAP. Yeah, okay. Never mind, it's not to do with fastest. Probably sound like a complete idiot in the last one, never mind. So there we go. Fast, rapid-fire shots again, doing a good barrage, reminding me a lot of something like Charadon's designs. And this amount of smoke is really quite neat, and it'll be great against the Steel Empire, which do utilise a load of LAM systems. So this amount of smoke against them will be brilliant, and it will really reduce the effectiveness of their LAM systems, allowing the rest of our forces to strike much harder against their foes, which will be really nice. I'd like to try that out. So just put in the Aspen and then go to the Lightning Hoods, not Lightning Hoods, and then send it against the Orion, which I tried earlier. So it has got LAM systems. So it's trying to shoot the lambs down, and it's just not being able to. I just took out one out of the barrage, but no, otherwise it's able to survive what hits there. But again, if it gets hit by the cram, it just gets disintegrated. So yes, these are very squishy designs, but again, that's more what they're designed to do. And this one here, I'll actually send this one against the Taipan. It's a fragmentation. It will not designed to take on Onyx Watch. But against something a little bit weaker, such as the Taipan, with a lot of wood. So the barrage of flak shells there just stripped off half of the hull of the Taipan there. The refire rate of these designs is a touch slow, but together in a consistent force, they will actually have a very high alpha strike, probably taking out one or two targets straight away together, which will be very nice. Okay, stripping off the components, all the detection components and all the weak components on the hulls is a very nice feature. But we now have the Heatsman. We'll send this against our friendly target, the cannon tower. This is much more like Charadon's the packing heat. This is what it reminds me of. So it's got 12 guns, all of which big barrage of heat round. And much like that one, it doesn't feel like it does much. And then what will happen is it will hit something crucial, and then the whole vehicle will explode, just like that. And so suddenly, the vehicle is dead because it's been hit with a barrage of heat. And that is the case with pretty much all heat weaponry. So this is no exception, except that it fires a nice big barrage straight away, which for heat is one of the better ways to use it, because you fire straight away and weaken your opponent as soon as possible, destroying as much of their ammo storage before they have a chance to use it. Because destroying ammo storage at any point in the game is nice, but if you destroy it first of all when it's full of ammo, that means that you come out on top because, well, the enemy have no ammo anymore. If you destroy it when it's empty, well, you've destroyed an empty ammo container. What does it matter? It's got a little bit of recharge, but it's empty. So, next we have the Mark Ds. So, we have, first of all, the S01E50. And these are looking a lot more aggressive. I do like that wing design thing there. This is definitely looking a bit tougher there with what appears to be spikes, and then actual separate wheel pods. Much bigger and robust design. Feels more like a actual infantry fighting vehicle, though, a big infantry fighting vehicle, but not actually so much a actual dedicated front line craft. Just due to it's like large rear section here, which I would kind of assume would actually carry troops. But we won't know until we actually see it in combat. Because it does have those barrage of missiles, which is more than the others. It has a good rate of fire. This seems, it just seems more like a actual more of a sporting craft, but it should be a very good sporting craft, and it is incredibly robust. It just doesn't feel the same way as the actual little tanks to start with. However, it does look absolutely amazing. I do like Monklizard's designs, some really, really good aesthetics. And what, as I've mentioned before, it's just how the importance of the functional components is integrated well into the aesthetics. So you don't just have to put on the aesthetics over the top of the functionality. The functionality is part of the design, which for campaign designs is really, really important, because although technically aesthetics increase the health of the design, it doesn't really, and a lot of the time it's wasted cost. So this is the Fragsman version, which I kind of would have thought was the same as the one we just had, but just thought that was fragmentation rounds, but there we go. Maybe some slight variation with how the fragmentation functions. Still, more fragmentation guns are fine. Fragmentation is one of the better all-purpose performing rounds. It's good in pretty much any aspect, so long as it has that inertial fuse. Although, yes, it doesn't defeat, you know, multiple layers of shielding anymore, and it isn't as overpowered as it used to be, but that's the thing, it's no longer overpowered, but it's still a very strong contender for a general purpose shell. The other one being, well, HE. A pure HE round, because again, inertial fuses are pretty much vital for all weapon systems. Finally, we have the Savarosum version, which I have no idea. I presume it's is it the Sabot version? Yeah, Sabot! Big, beefy Sabot rounds. And this will be great against the Onyx Watch, because, well, they don't have shields. You can actually aim? Huh. The shot doesn't seem to want to be loading. I'm really confused as to why this vehicle isn't working. There's no reason it shouldn't. I'm really not sure as to why this isn't working. I'll ask Monklizard to look over it before I actually deploy it properly in the next episode. It's a bit of a shame, but I do really want to be able to use it. So, we are now moving over to the combines. So, these are two-part designs, and they are a lot more expensive in most part. Might be able to spawn all of them in. I'll definitely try. I do have my forces, my existing forces, which I can just scrap for parts, which is what I'm going to do. So, first of all, we have the Akashina. I'm going to butcher all the pronunciations of all of this, so... Okay, the game's crashed. That might be why the game wasn't working properly. So, give me a moment, I will reload. Right, so unfortunately the Akashina doesn't seem to want to load for me, so it just keeps crashing the game. So we're going to straight over to the Ishkabar. So all these designs, I think they all have a very similar base unit to them, which is, again, very basic. But then we have these absolutely brilliant little characters sitting on top, armed with really rather awesome weapons. So, what have we got here? Got like a triple rocket launcher thing here. He's just peering out, aiming at the target. So, the also great little feature here. So, not only do we have a little character here, but then it's also got the aesthetics of actually having like a beaked helmet as well. So yeah, awesome. And they're all like that, which is a real shame why I can't showcase the one which unfortunately is a little bit duff. And then, okay, that was cool. So, lines up the shot, aiming through the glass viewfinder there, and then firing the 3 shots in place. Oh, this is glorious. Really glorious. It's then maintaining the distance of its target as well. So then if I destroy the enemy vehicles, should then revert to the standby animation. Oh, that is brilliant. So let's move up to the next one, the Hackley. So this one, I thought it was wielding bagpipes. So we have, again, same sort of base plate there. And, yeah, the same sort of body there, but it's now different weapon systems. Like gun gauntlets. Interesting. Let's see how it aims and fires these ones. Oh! The guns on the body as well. On the skirt, they're also aimed towards the target. I'll spawn another one in. So they all line up. They all fire at the target, doing a good amount of damage. And looks like different shells in each gun, so high explosive and fragmentation. And a good strong LAM system is protecting it from inbound fire as well. Oh, brilliant. Really very nice. It's very potent as well. Probably not going to be the best against anti-air, but well, I'm facing an Onyx Watch, so... Oh no, it will be the Steel Empire. So there will be some air. There will be some air. Keep forgetting that. I'm facing against the Onyx Watch so we can see them face off against both types of forces. So, we now have the Headhunter. I'm not entirely sure what this role is. Maybe it's if the base units get destroyed, it actually then goes around and finds them. Because I think that's all it is. It's a slightly different design. I wonder if it's got a lure box or something in there, which is what it does. But No idea. I've probably been told at some point in the past, but I will admit I have completely forgotten. Next up we have the Kaklishma. This one seems to be a more standardish looking assault rifle, like railgun system. Interesting. Again, holding the gun like a ready position. Let's see how it lines up the target, aims, and then fires. Little wings on there as well. Oh, these are brilliant, absolutely fantastic. I don't even care that they aren't, you know, particularly effective for their cost. They just got amazing. There's a good two barrels in the gun, but it makes it fires a small burst. Good. Again with fragmentation and HE, I think it is. Or it might just be just general all-purpose rounds. Let's just quickly checking the guns. Yeah, so we've got hollow point, yeah, fragmentation, HE. Yeah, so we've got nice little general-purpose rounds in those cases, and then if you destroy the enemy vehicles, should then return back to the ready position again. I do like the attention to detail that these are also just slightly different, like the headgear is slightly different, the colour schemes are subtly different here and there. It's just not just swapping out the arms. There has been a little bit of extra care taken to the rest of the aesthetics, like the differences in the helmets and things as well. Really good tiny attention to detail there, which means that when they all spawn together, which I will do shortly, just means that they work much better as a cohesive unit, but without just looking as carbon copies of each other. So we have the Sigurisa. So this is a battle house, just for lack of a better term. Guns there, guns all over the place it seems. I do love the fact that you can now set the default angles, because it just makes this look so much more ominous with all of the turrets just pointing in different angled directions rather than straight ahead. So, oh, this is more of an actual hover there, so it's fine. Fragmentation there. Oh, it's actually not able to fire those guns at targets, so this is actually anti-air. So let's face it off against the Wander. There's definitely a little bit of difficulty aiming at the Wander, but there we go. It does fire a good barrage of shots at the Wander, destroying it. So this is our anti-air. A house. Awesome. Absolutely fantastic. I love every minute of this. So, I wonder what next one is going to be. The Siege Hunter. So this one looks a lot more ominous and angled down. It's probably, yeah, more for the actual siege, so a lot tougher destruction. A lot of forward-facing guns it seems, and then several big guns as well. What sort of ammunition we got in here? Disruptors, yeah, we got disruptors, composites, yeah, we got the works here. This is just going to do a ridiculous amount of everything. So we'll send this one. I know I'm only sending things against the cannon tower, but it gives a good indication of a similar strength. I'm more interested to see how they operate than the actual combat effectiveness. Though that barrage was brutal and would easily be able to destroy most of the Onyx Watchcraft with relative ease. So it's a little bit of slow refire rate. It's only a couple of main guns there, but then, yeah, once things start firing and aiming, then the guns just keep on firing and firing. It can fire a couple of different targets, and it's actually AI-deaded them both in very, very short order. So very nicely done there. And so finally we have the Siege Crusham? Use Crusham or something. I have no idea. It's 2 AM in the morning, I can't think. Particle Accelerator. I was just trying to figure out what it is. Well, other than, you know, dragon head thing with a house on the back. Odd designs. Really neat, but still odd. I have no idea how he comes up with these ideas. They look absolutely fantastic. And this is, well, it's Particle Accelerator. Yeah, I did its target already. Good grief. What type of EM? So it fires, seems to fire a few small shots. It lines it up. It looks like it is impact. An impact pack. Yeah, impact. So it will do a decent amount of damage, but the main damage is the fact that it's going to be hit scan weaponry. And that is just really, really effective. So let's just spawn all of these in, because I just want to see them all together. So here we go. This is what I mean by the fact that the aesthetics, these subtly different colours and their helms and styles, just makes them all work absolutely wonderfully together. And all of them just have this nice, similar style, but at the same time being distinct from one another. Really, really nicely done across all of those designs there, and we'll also do the same thing with the actual, all of these. So I think these ones are literally just remakes of each other. Yeah, they've got different colours for the identification, but they are pretty much the same vehicle there with different munitions. That's fine, but then across the group of them, I'll actually pull in the one I've spawned in the campaign and bring that into the main force. I think that was actually the version A. So again, here all these tanks have this really good consistent style, very beetle-like I feel, but very insect beetle-like. And yeah, so despite being, you know, very different style to each other, they have this theme and they look as if they are very much part of the same force, but without looking too similar to each other, and they do indicate their very specific role. So this is generally a fairly light but breaching tank there. Then we have what seems to be a tougher build, but also and with a larger turret at the top, so more like the heavier tanks. Then we have the support vehicles on this side. So we have the lighter ones for more the anti-air and long-range bombardment, and then this one, which I feel just seems more like an actual transport and more of an infantry fighter vehicle or support craft for the actual forces itself. And together they work out absolutely fantastically, so I am really looking forward to utilising all of these designs in the actual campaign proper. But that is going to have to be until next episode. So thank you very much for watching this episode of Ashes of the Empire in From the Depths with myself, Anna Diffin. If you did enjoy the episode, please leave a like and or comment below, as it is always great to hear from you lot. Otherwise, that's it for me for now, and I shall see you next time. But until then, I'm out. Goodbye!